Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Disgustingly Resilient podcast, and another episode of the Been a While Perfect Plague series, which is a series dedicated to specific matchups, looking at the meta build at the moment of the certain army, and talking about what they do well, how they play, and how we can sort of try to counter that. Do bear in mind, the game is massive, it's way too hard to cover every single detachment, certain build an army can do in units, so we just tend to look at what's doing well in the meta and what's strong for that certain army, because that's most likely what you're going to come across. If you do enjoy the content, please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe, and if you really enjoy it, feel free to become a member and a Plague Marine, get access to all the perks, including joining the Discord, etc, etc. But first of all, let's get into how do we make a Plague. So what we're going to do, we're going to first identify the army's identity and the sort of playstyle that army is currently going for. Then we're going to look at some of the strong attachments and some core strategies that maybe the army plays with. Then we'll look at some meta units and a list that's done well. And then we're going to sort of talk about things such as who is the aggressor, who's the defender in this matchup, and then talk about counters and specific things that we can do as Death Guard to fight against this army. Now every picture you're going to see, like right here, is provided by the Dark Angels competitive Facebook group. Thank you so much to those guys. Big shout out to them for providing me with pictures to put in this video. Their work is awesome, so thank you so much, guys. So let's get into it. What is the Dark Angels identity? Dark Angels are kind of like a balanced Marines. They can do melee, they can do shooting. They're pretty good at both. They have the ability to be flexible like Marines, but they tend to have a little bit extra durability. So they have quite a few durable units, more so than normal. A lot of Terminator focus sort of things. And they tend to be on the more like defensive, battle shocky, like immune side, which isn't really great this edition. But what they do bring is a lot of elite melee units, backed up by some fast supporting firepower. With like, you can look at the bikes for that kind of thing. But really, when I look at Dark Angels, I think of just vanilla Marines plus more. This is just sort of like take all comers, bit of toolboxy, bit of can do everything Marine. It's not like Blood Angels who are committed to the melee. It's just like we can do a bit of everything plus a little bit more. So that's the way I see Dark Angels when I look at it. They can do all sorts of things, all different play styles. They can lean into heavier shooting, they can lean into heavier melee, but they're not limited to like you play against Blood Angels. They kind of really want to focus on the melee over the shooting aspects, whereas Dark Angels take a more balanced approach, even if currently right now they definitely more probably lean on the melee side with their elite melee units. So what are the best attachments currently that are being ran by Dark Angels? Well, first up is the bog standard Gladius task force. It's here for a reason. It is so versatile, and someone who can play Marines well with this attachment, it is everything you ever want and need in a toolbox. It gives you huge bonuses to mobility and output. This gives you access to Assault Doctrine, Tactical Doctrine, and Dev Doctrine. In Assault Doctrine, your entire army can advance and charge. Pretty nuts for a turn. Tactical Doctrine, you can fall back, shoot, and charge. Again, incredible if you're getting locked up and you need to get some space, or they've locked up a key unit, you need to get back and then shoot. And then you've got Dev Doctrine, that gives your entire army advance and shoot for a turn. Access to these three rules army-wide once per game is all you need as a toolbox player to make the right plays. Now on top of that, you also have an amazing enhancement in there called Fire Discipline, which basically gives a squad sustained hits in the Dev Doctrine, and then also 5+ crits. So it makes one squad very lethal, easily getting lots of bonuses, and obviously you can put that enhancement on a lieutenant, so then you're like sustained and lethal on 5s in the Dev Doctrine, which is kind of wild. Now they have access to some amazing strats as well. Again, covers sort of every aspect. You can get Lance for a squad, and I think it's also like +1 AP or something like that. You can get Ignore Cover, which is obviously very good. You can get a Reactive Move, which can be either a D6 or a flat 6 if you're in Tactical Doctrine. And they also have access to Fight on Death, which is a very important rule to have at the moment. Because of this, and the fact that it has a bit of everything, it is a natural synergy with all kinds of toolboxy lists. You can bring a little bit of everything, and Gladius just has all the bonuses you need to get the most out of every unit in your army. It's not just everything's all in the melee. Like I said before, it's all about a bit of everything. You have a stratagem to put a unit into a doctrine, even if you've already used it. So if you really need advance and charge on one unit, but you're like, oh god, it'd be really good if my entire army could advance and shoot this turn, you go, okay, Dev Doctrine for the entire army, 1 command point, put this single squad in Assault Doctrine, so they can advance and charge, the rest of my army can advance and shoot. It's incredible. It's such an overlooked and underrated detachment. Again, it's because it's the first detachment. Everyone wants to play the fancy stuff, but Gladius is super good, and it's still on top for a reason. Now, there is also another playstyle you can take, which has had a little bit of success, but nowhere near the effect of Gladius, which is the Inner Circle Task Force. This works by they basically pick objectives to vow. Now, you get +1 to wound for all your infantry units on any target that is on a vowed objective. So it's very good at clearing off specific objectives, and you get to pick it every turn. They do have a cool enhancement that lets them get a turn 1 deep strike, which I think is the only one in the game that's not like some weird uppy downy rule. It's just like, no, I just come in turn 1 every time, regardless of if I go first turn or second turn. So that's really cool. They also have melee wound rerolls, 3-inch deep strike, -1 to wound when they're charged, and they also get a weird skew of like infantry / tank shock combo stratagem. But really, it's all about a skew Terminator list. You want to bring Terminators because they get all the bonuses in this one. However, do bear in mind, some characters like Azrael do have the Deathwing keyword, and they can join units that don't have the Deathwing keyword, but in doing so, they will convey that keyword to the unit. So you can get these bonuses, like you can see on screen, that can normally only be used by Deathwing, which is like the Terminators basically. And now suddenly, you've got Azrael and a squad of Hellblasters, and now they're acting as their Deathwing, so they're going to get the +1 to wound and all that kind of good stuff, which can be really interesting and really powerful. I definitely will say though, I think you're mostly going to see the Gladius Task Force. It is just super versatile. It's everything that Dark Angels want. It makes the slow units fast. It makes the fast units be able to hit harder. Again, lancing combat means your strength's kind of a little less relevant because they don't have the highest melee strength. But you've also got the utility to like fallback charge, fallback shoot, and you've got that really nasty enhancement to make one super powerful fire support unit. So, what's kind of the list archetype and playstyle of Dark Angels? Well, they like to do what's called Hammer and Anvil. Now, Hammer and Anvil is the idea that you have these strong, durable units that are going to take the hit, and then once your opponent has crashed into that hammer, the Anvil, which is just as Terminators, Deathwing Knights, things like that, then you bring out your units that deal damage, and they're the hammer. So your opponent is caught between them both, and you basically, the opponent attacks you, bounces off, then you bring out your damage and crush them on the counter attack. Very similar to kind of how Death Guard want to play, but kind of like a loyalist version. They use a lot of anchor units like Deathwing Knights, so these guys are, we'll see in a second, we'll get into the stats, but they're a very tough unit, and very hard to kill. And then they usually have staged melee units around the board to react. Again, they can always pop the advance and charge if they need to. They can always, be there to heroic intervention. So it's quite a bit of heavy melee focus in the current Dark Angel playstyle. And they do also bring some fire support along as well. So the best way I would describe it is durable infantry with fire support. So elite melee forces with some fire support units to back them up, basically. So what are some core strategies and combos that the army is going to be using? You're going to see a lot of a Fire Discipline Lieutenant combined with Hellblasters or Eradicators. As I said before, Lieutenants give squads lethal hits, the Fire Discipline Enhancement gives them crits on 5s, and sustained if you're in Devastator Doctrine. So you put this in a squad of Hellblasters, and now you're looking at tons of high strength plasma fire coming down at you at great AP, and it's all going to be lethal and sustaining you on 5s to hit. Combine that with Oaths of Moment, which is going to give them full rerolls to hit against a unit. That's going to pick up whatever it wants. And this can be even more gross with Eradicators. Eradicators are more geared towards anti-tank with all the melter weaponry, of course, whereas Hellblasters have a lot more weight of fire. However, Eradicators have built-in full rerolls to hit, wound, and damage versus monsters and vehicles. What this means is that Oath of Moment is 3'd up to not have to be dedicated to whatever the Hellblasters are shooting to get the most out of the lethal and sustained, because chances are the target they want to fire is a monster or a vehicle. This frees up Oath of Moments to be used for your other units like your Inner Circle Companions, your Deathwing Knights, etc. You're going to see this unit a lot. It's extremely scary. Sometimes it's in a Repulsor, sometimes it's in a Redeemer, sometimes it's just going to come on from reserves, sometimes it's in an Impulsor. Lots of different ways to use this unit, but you will always see, or should always see, in a strong Dark Angel list, at least this unit, because the enhancement is crazy good. The firepower this puts out is insane, and the Hellblasters can literally pop out, pick up 2 units. They die to hazardous, they pick up a 3rd unit, you shoot them back and kill them, and then they shoot on death and pick up a 4th unit. I've seen it happen. It's grim. So be careful of this unit and expect to see something like this. Now the next one we've seen a lot is Librarians and Inner Circle Companions. Inner Circle Companions are a really good elite melee unit. Lots of good Strength 6 AP 2 damage attacks, and they can get sustained lethal. Again, we'll look at them in a second when we look at meta units. But a common combination you're going to see is the addition of Librarians to the squads. The reason for this is because Librarians in that squad give the squad the one thing they lack, which is an invulnerable. Inner Circle Companions are 3 wound Marines with just a 3-up armor save. Really easy to kill. When a Librarian joins them, however, it gives them that 4-up invulnerable, which is crucial in the current metagame. Like, having a 4-up invulnerable is almost like staple for a good unit. So you're going to see a lot of those guys being given invulnerables and then walking around being this elite melee beatstick. Like I said, the core strategy is hammer and anvil. The Deathwing Knights are going to hold you there. You're going to crash into them, bounce off them. The Inner Circle Companions are going to either come out and kill you, or the Deathwing Knights are going to fall back and let the aforementioned Hellblasters, etc. absolutely demolish you. Now, while this is happening, they're going to be relying on stuff like scouts and jump intercessors, all these little cheap scoring units that are also going to be running around, scoring the secondaries, being annoying. So they're also important to try and deal with. And should you overcommit, you could find 5 assault jump intercessors, rapid ingressing onto your backfield, killing something like your cultists, your poxwalkers, whatever you had there, and now you've lost your home. So do be careful. It's a very popular unit. You're going to see it a lot. And we're also, there is a bit of a weird build that we're also seeing with some impulsors. So it's the same sort of build as the one with hammer and anvil style, but it just has a bit more mobility and a bit more ability to stage and fling out units because the extra disembark also means they can get to positions quicker, so you don't have to be as worried about being slow and trying to get to a good staging point. The impulsors then also can go and do secondaries for them. They have an invuln. It kind of mixes up the profiles required to kill as well, because one list is very infantry heavy, and now this one suddenly throws impulsors into the mix, which is like, oh, okay, now I've got to crack a vehicle before I can touch the infantry. But this is kind of like when you look at a good competitive Dark Angels list at the moment, this is the kind of thing you should expect to see. Some form of fire discipline combo, Librarians and Inner Circle Companions. Some people are messing with Judicares for fight first, which is a good shout as well, but again, it's a much squishier unit. A focus on hammer and anvil, and then jump intercessors plus scouts and things like that for scoring around. So let's have a look at some meta units. Deathwing Knights with maces. T5, 4 wounds each, 2-up save, 4-up invulnerable, permanent -1 damage. It's a Death Guard's wet dream, but unfortunately, we haven't got that. Dark can just have it. They're also rocking an anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4-up melee weapon in the mace, which is also going to be AP 2 damage. It's an incredibly durable anvil unit. This is the thing they want you to crash into, bounce off, and then they'll either kill you back on the swing back, or they'll fall back and let something else clean you up. They can surprisingly pack a punch now, probably a bit more than they should for a durable anvil unit. Like for me, I would rather them just not have output, but just be really defensive. GW wanted them to hit harder because they want them to be elite unit. Fair enough. So they can pack a little punch, especially because again your toughness doesn't matter when you high things. It's anti-vehicle, anti-monster 4-up. So do beware, it's very scary and a very durable melee unit. They only come in squads of 5, but that is still going to be 20 wounds at -1 damage, 4-up invulnerable, 2-up armor save. So still very annoying to deal with. Now, the main output, more output focused than the Deathwing Knights, this is the stabby melee now, is the Inner Circle Companions and Librarian. So they're like higher output Blade Guard. They have a native -1 to be hit, which is an okay defensive, but not the best in the world, but it's decent. They are weirdly OC too, though. I think it's because they have a banner, so it's supposed to represent that. But this does mean that they're actually kind of annoying to out OC, because the squad's actually rocking 12 OC, whereas something like the Deathwing Knights is only 5 OC. So do be aware that is something that can happen. They come in squads of 3 to 6, you're going to most commonly see them in 6s, and they have access to either a strike, which is lethal hits, or a sweep, which is sustained hits. One of them being 2 damage, one of them being 1 damage, but both are like strength 6, AP 2, I believe it is. Like I said, the Librarian's also going to give them a 4+ invulnerable save and also a 4+ feel no pain versus like psychic attacks as well, which is important if you're running Plague Bust. Do be aware, Plague Bust is no way near as good versus Inner Circle Companions. Then you're probably better off shooting the Deathwing Knights, even if they are -1 damage, because 4+ feel no pain is just awful to deal with. So these squads are like the main combo. One's there to hold you in place, one's there to cut off your head. So do be aware, you're going to see like normally 2 of each of these units. So you can see 2 units Deathwing Knights, 2 units of 6 Inner Circle Companions. Some people go the whole hog for 3 each of these. Some people think that's an overcommitment, but again, it all depends how people play. But definitely expect these are going to be in every competitive Dark Angel list, so definitely drill these into your head. Now, the Inner Circle Companions are just a 3 wound, 3 up armor save Marine. Again, the Librarian gives them the invuln. Some people are taking a Judicaire, which gives the squad fight first at the expense of the invuln, so that's easier to deal with. But it is still just a T4 or T3 when we're close. Marine with a 3 up save and a 4 up invulnerable. So they can go down fairly quickly on some bad rolls, especially if you bring damage 3, which again we'll talk about in a bit. But do beware to see a lot of these guys. Next up, as we said, is the Hellblaster Lieutenant combo. 2 shots per guy, strength 8, AP3, 2 damage. Getting those lethal hits from Lieutenant. Combo in the Fire Discipline for 5+ crits and sustained. They're also assault and heavy weapons, so do be aware these guys can always advance and shoot your ass. And they also have shoot on death. Again, really popular combo to see this. It is kind of expensive and they are just 2 wound Marines with a 3 up save. So do bear in mind they can die pretty quick, but they do shoot on death. So if you're going to kill them, just be aware whatever's going to kill them from shooting either needs to outrange them or like indirect it, or you're going to probably die back. Now, Azrael is also in every Dark Angel list pretty much, because he's just insane for his value. Every turn he's going to give them an extra command point for free. No rolls required, just get that command point, you go king. So that's really good, obviously. He grants the unit he's in sustained hits, which is quite nice, so extra, extra hits on 6s, whether that's shooting or melee, great. He also grants the unit a 4+ invulnerable, just like the Librarians, so sometimes you might see Azrael with the Hellblasters to give them sustained hits and an invulnerable. They can still be joined by a Lieutenant, which has the Fire Discipline enhancement, but again, you kind of get a little bit of waste there because they both bring sustained there, which is, it's okay. But it's still good to give them a 4+ invulnerable. And he also has fairly strong melee and a 3-shot anti-infantry 4+ devastating wound 2 damage gun. So that's also going to be benefiting from the sustained hits, potentially from the sustained 5s and lethals that a Lieutenant can bring. But obviously then the lethals is not what you want, because the lethals will stop you rolling to get a death wound. So again, bit of a non-bo there, probably another reason why people are more running him with, like, again, the Inner Circle Companions over the Hellblasters. Now we're gonna have a quick look at the Primarch that you're gonna see. The Primarch isn't meta. I won't lie. The Primarch's not exactly a meta thing, but I want to cover him because it's an important model, and especially if you're playing at a more casual level, a lot of Dark Angel players and a lot of like Death Guard, we want to bring our Primarch, so you're gonna probably see him. And I just want to cover him just so you guys can not be like, you didn't talk about the Lion, because he's a really cool model. He's toughness 9, 10 wounds, 2 up save, 3 up invulnerable. 3 up invulnerable is real nice. He's got 2 plasma pistol shots and 4 damage 2 bolt pistol shots. 8 attacks at strength 12, AP 4, 4 damage with lethal hits. More Tarion, please. And then 16 attacks on the sweep at strength 6, AP 3, 1 damage with sustained. Again, Mortarion, please. He just puts Morty to shame. He also has fights first, which is extremely scary, and lone up if he's near a unit, which is very good. And an interesting thing that happened recently is that even though he's a monster keyword, Imperial Loyalist Primarchs are allowed to walk through ruins as if they're infantry. So very scary. This guy can stage behind a ruin, pop out and push your shit in real quick. He also has a weird rule to reflect mortal wounds on every 6 he gets to save. Now, he gets to pick from 3 auras just like Morty does. His, however, are just no way near as good as Morty's in my opinion. Not that Morty has great ones, but I think he's got even weaker ones. He has one where if you try to use a stratagem near him, you have to take a battle shock test. If you fail it, you don't get your stratagem, and I think you still lose the command point. That was pretty cool, but again, battle shock is unreliable at times because they could just pass it and it does nothing. And again, they have to spend the CP, and if you've got that on, they're probably just not gonna. He has +1 to hit in melee aura, which is pretty good, but most of the things in the Dark Angels are already hitting on 2s. Lion's hitting on 2s himself. The Deathwing Knights hit on 2s. Inner Circle Companions hit on 3s, but they get +1 to hit versus characters. So they're going to get that if you've got character in unit, which most units do have characters in. So it's going to get +1 to hit, so it's hitting on 2, so it's like, And his last one is a 4-up Feel No Pain versus Mortals, which again, they might keep up just because it's there, but it's not really like, you know it's there. You know so just don't grenade him and don't typhus him, just go elsewhere with it. So yeah, he's okay. He's more of a casual piece. People don't tend to see him in tabletops at like competitive levels because he's 300 points, and really all he is a big beat stick boy. And if he ever drops his Feel No Pain for a second or versus Mortals, you hit him with a grenade, you hit him with a typhus, he's suddenly got only 4 wounds left. You just spray and pray him with something there, and if one predator round sneaks through, he's dead. So people don't tend to take him that much because it's a 300 point investment. He doesn't get back up like Guilliman. He doesn't give as good buffs as Guilliman. So you're better off usually just taking more units rather than the Primarch. But again, he's cool. If you're against him, just beware. He's very scary in melee. Stay away from him. Don't let him heroic intervention into you because he's got fight first. And yeah, just respect him. But he can go down pretty quick should he fail the wrong. In like a Brigand can literally like potentially one-tap him if he fails a 3-up save and you get 6 on the damage. So that's 300 points just gone. So yeah, that's why people don't tend to run in too much. But a cool model, and you might see him at your casual table. So a very quick look at an event-winning list. We have Ben Jones from Vanguard Tactics. Well done, Ben. And his Gladius Task Force list that went undefeated 5-0 at Sheffield Super Major. So he's rocking Azrael, as we said before. Again, great. Brings a free command point. Can join a unit. Gives it sustained hits and a 4-up invulnerable. Great. He brings a captain with some assault intercessors. Again, just to get the... It's just a unit that can sort of like go onto a point, clear it off, kill it, be done. Gets 4 rolls to wound for the captain because of the intercessors. He pops his once per game finest hour to get extra attacks, AP and damage, and dev wounds. Good little combo. 2 librarians to join the 6 inner circle companions, the 2 squads of 6. To give them that 4-up invulnerable. You got a lieutenant with fire discipline. Again, the combo with the 10 hellblasters you can see. Probably going to be joined by Azrael as well to give him an invulnerable and the sustained. A squad of intercessors, probably just a sticky objective home field and score some secondaries. 2 squads of jump assault intercessors. Again, just scoring secondaries, doing certain things, being annoying, and rapid ingress. Got grenades, got mortals on the charge. It's a great little tool unit. The impulsor, as aforementioned, he has the option to put inner circle companions in this to get him upfield quicker. He can also put hellblasters potentially. I don't know if he can fit the 10 man in there. I think impulse only carry 5, so or 6, and it was 6 in it. Yes, and +1 for characters. So yeah, it's just for the inner circle companions. Ignore me on that one. But again, like I said, it just gives him the option to have something that's not all infantry and protects you from like deep strike attacks because again they got to pop the vehicle first. And then on top of that, we've got 2 scout squads and 2 squads of Deathwing Knights. So again, the hammer, we've got the anvil at the top of the knights, the hammer of the companions, scoring units, scoring units, scoring units, scoring units, and then this big, nasty fire support unit. So it's a very good list because it's very versatile, just does what he needs to do, and basically has that fire support, has the anvil, has the ability to advance and charge all this. Again, it's Gladius. It can all advance and shoot, fall back and charge, fall back and shoot. All these kind of little tricks, and it's very strong. It clearly won. It clears very well. It went 5-0 undefeated at its Super Major in the UKTC, so a very strong list indeed. So, what is Dark Angel's weaknesses that we can sort of explore? I'm just going to quick sip, 1 second. Well, Dark Angels at the moment are going with a very heavy infantry focus. This means it opens them up to anti-infantry weaponry, which surprisingly we actually bring quite a lot of with all our flamers. So a good amount of flamers is going to be really strong versus Dark Angels. They're also somewhat predictable. Now Gladius sort of stops them being too predictable because again they could always pop a doctrine and suddenly that army you thought was just waiting behind the walls has now moved, advanced and is charging. So you have to be careful of that, but the sort of same rough idea is the same. Deathwing Knights want to hold you up and keep you busy. Inner circle companions want to stage and get good charges into important units, and the fire support wants to do fire supporty things, while all the other stuff just runs around and scores. That's the game plan. It's going to be staged to take you off your objective, hold the objectives with the tough units, like again make bad trades because again really tough units hard to trade into because you might not kill it, you might not do anything, you might just bounce and then it just falls back and then he shoots you to death or charges you and kills you. So it can be somewhat predictable in that sense. It's also reliant on its defensive mods and characters, so a lot of the characters are giving the good buffs out. Again, like Librarian, the second that dies, the squad's lost its entire 4% vulnerable save. -1 damage if you can ignore that. Mortarion, -1 to hit on the inner circle companions. All these kind of things are going to instantly make these units be a lot worse if you can ignore them. And again, even look at the Fire Discipline Lieutenant. If you manage to get into a charge into that, and even just with like Typhus solo, he precisions him out. The Hellblasters are suddenly a lot less scary because now they're just 10 Hellblasters with no sustained, no lethal, and no 5-up crits. It's a big investment to kill like that Lieutenant, who can potentially not even have an invulnerable if he hasn't given them the shield. They all probably will though. They can also tend to lack high strength weapons, so obviously outside the lethal sustained combo enhancement thing, their melee is mostly strength 6. Now don't be fooled by that because obviously the Deathwing Knights have the anti-monster and anti-vehicle for it, which is scary. And the Inner Circle Companions have lethal hits and they always get Oaths of Moment to reroll hits. But in general, they both cap out at 6. So anything that doesn't lethal hit Morty would be on like T12 would be needing 6s to wound, and anything on T10 would need 5s to wound. They're quite reliant on getting the lethal hits on the Inner Circle Companions, and the Deathwing Knights are susceptible for being vulnerable to -1 damage because again all these melee weapon profiles are damage 2, so -1 damage can actually just cut all this infantry, all this melee power straight in half straight away. They also lack long-range firepower. Again, the Hellblasters squad is incredibly scary, like I said, but it's only 24-inch range. And the Eradicators are even shorter. They don't tend to bring stuff like Lancers that we might used to see in the past, so they do kind of have to get into the thick of it. You're not going to get shot from 40 inches away, but again, do bear in mind they do have that mobility, so they have like the advance and shoot constantly, so it can get angles you think might have been safe. And last but not least, they are Marine profiles, and everyone in the game builds a list to kill Marines because they are the most common matchup you're going to get. So by nature of them being Marines, you building your list in general because everyone's thinking, like, oh yeah, damage 2 is good, damage 2 is good, need some damage 3 for the elite guys, cool, sorted. Naturally that will be good against Dark Angels because you just naturally build to kill Marines. That's like Warhammer in general. It's always been a thing. If you play Marines, half the game is designed to kill you. So just be aware of that. And that's something we can use also against them. Look at your damage profiles you bring in. Damage 2, damage 3, perfect. Bring that kind of stuff along. Again, the Deathwing Knights kind of throw that off a bit because they're -1 damage, but still the point remains. So, into the more Death Guardy side of things, which Contagion should you take? Well, again, they have a lot of hitting on 2s. Again, Deathwing Knights are going to be hitting on 2s. Inner Circle Companions are probably going to be hitting on 2s. So -1 to hit, it doesn't really do too much. 2s to 3s isn't that great. They've got Oaths of Moment as well. So it's not the greatest thing in the world. Which, you know, it's hard to suggest it. However, if you've brought like Typhus, a big brick of Death Shroud, so they're -2 to hit, that starts to become impactful then. If you've got lots of Nurglings in your list, that's also going to be very impactful to whether you should take that. If you haven't brought either of those, so if you've just got a 3-man Typhus squad, and then you've got maybe 1 squad of Nurglings, I definitely wouldn't recommend the ballistic skill and weapon skill. I would probably go for the -1 save. Yes, the army has a lot of 4+ invulnerables, but the best way to kill them, as we've seen versus Custodes, is to make them roll as many 4+ invulnerables. So if you've brought a lot of anti-infantry weaponry, which is naturally AP1, you don't want to get armor attempted to AP0, so reducing the save to a 3-up or a 4-up invulnerable straight up on the Inner Circle Companions, and just making them take 1,000,000 saves is going to be the most efficient way you're going to get through them. Now, another question is, can you outlast an OC them? Because if you feel like you can outlast and you have a list with lots and lots of OC, you might want the weapon skill, ballistic skill, because again, you can try and just engage in the close combat, stay there and outlast them. Now, that's not always going to be possible, because again, the Inner Circle Companions having the OC2 makes that a bit more tough. So, some people might say, why not take -1 OC in leadership? Because again, it's only affecting the 2 squads of Inner Circle Companions. Everyone else is OC1, so it doesn't do anything to any of those things there. So it's not worth committing your entire army rule to stop the Inner Circle Companions. So I think 90% of the time I'm going to pick -1 save personally, but I could see an argument for -1 weapon skill, ballistic skill, if you have brought either lots of Nurglings to support or Typhus in a large brick of Death Shroud. So what's our game plan approach? We want to try and force engagements from the units that aren't the Deathwing Knights. The Deathwing Knights, you need to deal with them eventually, but you don't want to take the bait and charge like 10 Plague Marines with fights first, blah 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 blah, into Deathwing Knights. You also don't really want to let them charge your fight first Plague Marines, because you won't do enough to them. You might kill 2, and then the damage 2 weapons are going to swing back and really hurt you badly. So the Knights kind of need to be avoided until you can whittle them down. Now, if you can spray 2 guys to death, or mortar 2 guys to death, if you get a bit lucky, then suddenly only 3 guys left. Then, by all means, take the charge. You might kill like 2 more, and there's 1 guy left, and you could, okay, cool, you can clean that up. You can clean that up. That's fine. But please do not have a 5-wing Deathwing Knight on an objective in the middle and take the bait and charge a 10-man Plague Marine unit into it. You're going to lose 300 points for potentially not even killing that unit. You are much better suited using some shooting firepower, plus like put a cheap unit on the objective like Cultists to out-OC them, because they're only 1 OC each, and then just shoot the shit out of them while they've got -1 save on them. Maybe you kill 2 or 3 guys, next turn the Cultists will die, but you've denied them their primary, and then you can finish off the squad next turn. Do not take the bait. Focus on removing scoring units or the fire support unit first. If you get rid of that, then the board opens up, because you're not going to get shot anymore. You're going to be free to move about as you want. Again, obviously avoiding the melee charges. But it's also going to make them have to expose units, because when scoring units are dead, you have to start doing your objectives with your main units. So if you have PBCs, shoot them at scouts. They've only got 4 up saves. You've got a much better chance of killing them. Don't bother shooting the Deathwing Knights or the Inner Companions in cover unless you can get -1 save on them. Again, still wouldn't even recommend it versus Deathwing Knights. They're just on armor contempt. So shoot the scouts first. Shoot the scoring units. If they have to then expose units because they're falling behind the secondaries, then you're going to get the jump on them. Be aware of threat range as always. Again, this is an army that at any point can pop advance and charge if they're in Gladius, so you need to be aware of that. So measure your ranges, shove an extra 4 inches on it to be safe. Again, it could be 6 if you want to be really safe. And just play around that. Always understand they can come out of nowhere, and that slow unit of Deathwing Knights that moves 5 can suddenly be all up in your face very, very quickly. Leverage your high toughness. Like I said, they do have anti-vehicle, anti-monster 4-up, but they only have that on the Deathwing Knights. Now, if you can get the Knights either whittled down, there's only 2 guys or so left, feel free to go and tag them with like a PBC or something, especially if you've got 2 CP spare for -1 damage, or you're not scared, you've got some Nurglings nearby to make them hit worse. There's a good chance that he's going to keep them busy for a turn. Now, bear in mind, this is an army that has access to fallback, advance, and charge, and all that kind of stuff. So be careful, don't commit something like that. Take a load of 3 damage, and then they just fall back and charge anyway. So if Tactical Doctrine has not been popped yet, don't be doing this. But also understand that putting a bloat drone out is going to make them either have to charge it with something. And I've had them charge bloat drones before. You pop -1 damage, and Deathwing Knights on average will not kill that thing. With -1 damage up, they will not kill it. And you can fall back, spray them, and then open up with guns. So if they want to reliably kill it, they're going to have to charge it with Inner Circle Companions, who hit harder. Or, and they still might not even kill it with -1 damage, but, or they bring out the fire support unit to kill it. In which case, then you need to make sure you have an answer for that fire support unit. So just be aware of that. And bring damage 3. Damage 3 is real good against these guys. Inner Circle Companions are 3 wounds each. Predator Destructor fires, bang, bang, bang. Every single failed 4-up is a dead Marine. Great for you. Shooting him at Deathwing Knights, okay, the -1 damage. But guess what? Damage 3 to damage 2 doesn't matter. You still need 2 to go through to kill a 4-wound Terminator. So it's basically not a rule against them. So again, damage 3, really, really, really good against this army. Lord of Contagions, Typhus, Predator Destructors, bring all that sort of good stuff. Even Melter Guns, because it's 1 + 2 minimum, so then you get 3 minimum, so it's like, cool, worst case I half health you, or I kill you for an Inner Circle Companion. Best case scenario, I roll a 3 on the damage, and now it's 5 down to 4 and I've one-shot you. So yeah, really good to bring that along. So, we're going to talk about staging. Both of us are armies that want to stage. What's important is forcing our opponent to commit first. This means we're going to be using stuff like Cultists to out-OC, like we said before, on Deathwing Knights. Trying to use that on Inner Circle Companions. Again, if you can get Cultists onto a point with 10 OC that Inner Circle Companions are hiding behind a wall on, you can get there, hit the -1 save onto them, then shoot, like, if you've got 3 PVCs, shoot all the mortars of that squad, try and reduce that OC down. Again, they're OC 13 because they've got a librarian. As soon as you kill 2 of them, the 10 cultists will now out OC them, and then they have to come out from behind the wall, because again, they don't have much guns, they don't want to commit the fire discipline Hellblaster brick to kill 10 cultists that you'll then shoot back. So they have to come onto the other side of the wall to chop them up, in which case they're now exposed and you can get the jump on them. So you want to use your cheap units to force your opponent to commit to coming out first. You can also use strategic reserves to break the deadlock. So if you're behind a wall with 10 Fight First Plague Marines, they're behind a wall with the Inner Circle Companions, don't be afraid to put like a Plague Bus or, like, you know, just a squad of Marines or even a Predator in reserves is great. Bring it in with a rapid ingress. Your opponent didn't see that coming because they're like, oh, why is he bringing a random Predator in the middle of nowhere with no targets to shoot? And then suddenly in your turn, you drive it 10 forward, get behind the room with the barrel of your gun, and you go bang, 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 and then you pick up like 2 or 3 Inner Circle Companions. And again, at that point, you have, doesn't matter if the Predator dies now, that unit cannot sit on that point because it's only got 7 OC, and then you can just walk onto it with something like, again, like 10 cultists or something, and just rob it off them and keep denying it. And that's going to be really important for breaking that deadlock where it's I hold one, I hold home, I hold another one, you're doing the same, we're both just sat here, no one wants to commit first. Again, a wild Predator from a strategic reserve or from like an angle they weren't covering suddenly shows up, kills stuff, takes the OC off, and now the game's changed. Now they're forced to either commit for a charge to try and get you off your objective, and again, the game is now in play. They have committed first, and that's kind of what you want to do when it comes to staging. Indirect is still going to massively help here, as I said before, just then. You can kill 2 or 3 guys with indirect, suddenly you can out-OC that squad with just 10 cultists or 10 poxwalkers or whatever. It's quite easy to start out-OCing at that point. And at that point, again, they have to make something happen, or you're going to keep feeding OC onto a point. Again, so you put 10 cultists on it, maybe they come out, they kill it, and maybe somehow they do like a reactive move back behind the wall. Again, you mortar it again, kill another 2 guys, so now they've only got 5 OC on that point. So now you're like, okay, cool, so I can just, like, you know, I can go put a bloat drone and a rhino full of Plague Marines on it. Come out now, they've got to come out, it's like, what do? If we kill the rhino, the Plague Marines are just going to get out, so we have to kill the bloat drone. So we kill the bloat drone, but then the Plague Marines are going to disembark and kill us. All these kind of things. Fight first is also really going to matter in these matchups because, again, for Dark Angels to take fight first, which they can do, it's a much bigger commitment because they're going to lose their invulnerable, which makes them far more vulnerable to being killed. Us, on the other hand, we just take fight first anyway because we don't have invulnerables. So, if they don't have fight first, and we do, they can't do that charge into us on the objective. But should we, like, again, we mortar maybe like 2 or 3 guys off, cool, they're weakened enough, let's commit for it. Again, be careful of fights on death, always remember that. But they're, you know, as we talked about, try and pin some of the models so they can't swing at you. But at that point, if you want to go clear them off their objective, even if you lose a couple Plague Marines in the process, if they're dead and they've got nothing else to hold it, feel free there. But they can't pressure you that way, because if they charge you, they will also die on the swing back as well. Well, they'll swing first, even if you fight on death. You'll have sticky objective, hopefully, so even if you both die and everyone's dead, you will still hold the primary. So, tricks to employ. Check out the Fetid Fight Phase video recently for the Heroic Intervention trick. This is where this has come from. But you can use cultists to block objectives and have a Plague Marine squad hiding behind to Heroic Intervention. Now, what this means is the opponent can't walk Inner Circle Companions onto your objective and just out-OC you. Say maybe you can only hold it with 3 Plague Marines from one side or some 5 Deathwing Knights. Because you've blocked the objective, they can't walk onto it, which means the only way they can get onto the objective is by charging you. And as soon as they charge you, you can Heroic Intervention with Plague Marines. You all come out onto the objective, so you add a lot of OC to it. Then you'll also fight first, so you will go first then, and then you will kill them, which is really good, obviously. And then when they fight on death, half of them are going to have to go into the cultists because they had to base them when they did the charge, which means your Plague Marine is going to take less of a hit. You might even have some survivors by the end of it, but again, you're going to come out in that exchange on top. And it's a great way to protect your primary. Another one is to use your vehicles for early board control and then set up units to react to anything that tries to react to them. You're basically, when you're doing this, you're trying to force them to expose their fire support unit, their anti-tank. So you throw 3 bloat drones up at an objective. It's like, okay, cool, you are either going to come out with your Inner Circle Companions and charge them, or you're going to bring out your fire support and shoot them. Again, try not to give them all 3 kills, but, you know, like one's fine. Even 2 if it's going to get you a full unit kill back. And if you don't do that, I'm going to fly behind the terrain next turn, and I'm going to flame the crap out of you. Again, be careful of reactive moves, though. But it's basically you're trying to force out an overwatch, a charge, something to make something happen, and then you have capitalized. You've got some predators waiting to like react to the angle. So again, you fly a blow drone up here. They bring out a unit to shoot it, but you've had a predator down here waiting, and then your turn, it then comes out and then picks that unit up. So again, just you can use the vehicles because again they have to react to them because they struggle to kill some vehicles in some matchups. So just be aware, it's sometimes a good way to force a good trade, especially with cheap vehicles like blow drones. So what are some tech choices we can bring as Death Guard? Mortarion, ignoring all modifiers is fantastic. Obviously you can just turn off the -1 damage, you can turn off the -1 to hit, all these kind of things. Ignore Armor Contempt, which is great. He's damaged for himself, so each time he swings at like a Deathwing Knight, it kills a guy if he fails an invulnerable. Same with the Inner Circle Companions, kills a guy. He's really good at brawling, and he's going to allow you to maximize your wounds, because again, they can't Armor Contempt you, to make them roll 4-up saves and 4-up invulnerables. The more they fail, the more they die, so that's always good. Predator Destructor, as we talked about before, so I won't go too much into it. Damage 3 is really, really good in this matchup. It's going to get +1 AP versus 90% of this army, because it's mostly infantry that they're bringing. The last cannons are still there to flex into stuff like, you know, impulsors, or like maybe like a single lancer or a repulsor if they've brought them. But also the last cannon's pretty nice to be able to just blast and maybe potentially kill a Terminator. And worst case scenario, these are 130 points. You can use these as charge bait, because if you kill whatever kills the Predator, because people want to kill Predators, they think they're really scary and they think like, yeah, I've killed a tank. And then you go, it's only 130 points, and now I've just killed your 250 point Inner Circle Companion unit. Cool. I'm winning. So don't be afraid to use them as cheap charge bait whilst getting some shots. If you can move forward, get some shots up into Summit, kill a few models, then get charged and die, but then you kill that unit in return, that's a good use for the Predator. So don't think you can't use them for that reason. Cultists are still great. Move blocking, this army is very susceptible to it, even though it can be fast. It is not fly, it's all normal infantry, so you can actually move block quite easily. They can lack OC outside of the Inner Circle Companions, so it's very easy to take an objective off 5 Deathwing Knights because you just put 10 cultists on it, and again, that's really useful. So it's great for move blocking, flipping primary. You can also force them to charge into open ground, because again, if you've put 10 cultists on objective and they've got 5 Deathwing Knights behind a wall, their choice is either to bring out their very limited fire support or to charge through the wall and kill you, or you're going to draw out something like some Assault Intercessors, something like that, something that you will trade up value on. So they're really, really good for that. And also, best case scenario, if they do put the Deathwing Knights in reserves for rapid ingress, etc., they're just great screens to push it back, and they don't have too many shots to keep killing your screens. So again, real good unit. Malignant Playcasters are interested in this as well. You can stack the slows on Deathwing. 2 of them shooting as Deathwing can make them move 1 inch, which is really funny. Advance and charge doesn't matter when you're -4 to advance and -4 to charge, because you might advance 2 inches. Cool. So you've moved 3 inches and you're charging at -4. You're still not being able to charge. So that's really fun. -1 to wound as well for close combat on already low strength units. Again, it doesn't matter for anti-infantry, anti-monster and anti-vehicle. But if they're just fighting your like Terminators, which is T6, or their melee is strength 6, so now they're wounding you on 5s because you hit them with a -1 to wound. Can be quite important and quite good. D3 damage can also spike really hard. You can, you know, shoot Deathwing Knights, get 2-3 damages in a row, Deathwing Knight dead. And again, if you roll 200 damage, you're still getting 1 damage through, so you know, it's alright. But if you ever connect with Inner Circle Companions, maybe a squad that's brought a Judicaire and not a Librarian, they don't have the 4-up Feel No Pain versus Psychic, you can spike real hard and just pick that unit up. And the Judicaires are becoming more popular because they need to be able to fight first to defend that primary objective. And the invulnerable is becoming less important to them because, again, they're usually just standing on an objective and wanting to stage there. So if they pivot more to the fight first on that unit, then these guys are going to come back in fashion like, I don't know, tuxedos. Everyone's wearing them, right? Right. So some key strats that we can use as well. Disgustingly Resilient is really good in this matchup. It's actually one of the matchups where Disgustingly Resilient is really good. Their entire melee output is 2 damage. So keeping 2 command points up blunts 50% of their damage output in melee straight away. This is a weird matchup where the Terminator Sorcerer is underrated anyway, but in this matchup, he's so good. Slap him with your Terminator Brick and just be like, cool, your entire army will permanently deal half damage to me on this Deathwing Brick of 6. This Death Shroud Brick of 6. Really, really, really good. So keeping 2 CP up, I've had Bloat Drones survive charges from 5 Deathwing Knights with a Librarian, so the sustained hits on there, full rerolls to hit, and then they're also anti-vehicle 4 up, and then I survived because I had -1 damage, because they have to get 10 saves through. It's not easy. Sanguinous Flux, or Sanguine, whatever you call it. Sustained hits makes them take more saves. It's common knowledge. If they've got a 4-up invulnerable, the best way to kill it, make them take 1,000,000 saves. So weight of dice beats 4-up invulnerables, so sustained hits equals more saves. And -1 damage means nothing versus mass damage 1. So if you just spam them with Plague Knives at AP2, or like, Bebotic Axes and weapons like that, it doesn't matter that they're -1 damage, because I'm just going to drown you and making you take 1,000,000 invulnerable saves. So that's really, really good for it. And then obviously command reroll can actually matter here. You don't want to have a staging moment happen where you go to charge a unit and then you fail it, and then your Plague Marines are in the open, because then you're going to get engaged on. Again, we have fights first, so it's not too important, but when we go for these engagements, because the staging game that's going to happen, it's really important to know which ones matter and make sure we make those key charges when they come in. But again, command reroll is always important. And again, like if you do connect onto a squad of Inner Circle Companions, and you've gone for like a precision to try and kill Librarian out, and then you only do 2 wounds to him potentially with a flat 3 damage weapon, and he's going to die, and you really need him to die. Potentially consider maybe rerolling one of those wound rolls. Might actually be worth it, because if that guy dies, that squad becomes a lot weaker. But yeah, just understand that. But to summarize, guys, don't take the bait. Don't run into the Dark King's Deathwing Knights, bounce off, and then get your 300-point Plague Marine unit picked up. Understand the staging wall, what's important, when to commit. Try and wear them down before you commit, or force them to commit first, because that can be really good, and that's how you're going to win this, because both armies kind of won't have the same playstyle. Damage 3 is super good in this matchup, so if you can bring lots of Predator Destructors, a lot of Contagion, Typhus, it's really, really going to do you wonders, and it's great to have. Expect some trickery though. Gladius is a toolbox. It's tricky. It can pull off tricks like a fall back, shoot, charge, advanced charge, all these kind of things. A reactive move. So always be asking your opponent, what can you do? Remind yourself, and don't forget stuff happens like, for example, you don't want to get reactive moved on when you've come to kill a unit with like a Plague or something. But do bear in mind, you can drive up to just outside 9, disembark inside the 9 to shoot them, and they can't reactive move to that, because setting up a unit from a transport does not count as triggering a reactive move. So you got little tricks as well to play around it, and try and kill that fire support. Once the fire support unit is gone and dead, the field opens up so much more for you to be able to move around freely, not worry about getting your tanks picked up for 3 on the casual. And if you ever get a moment where you manage to get, like, again, there's 10 Hellblasters or something, you've got triple PBC, you've managed to sneak a single cultist or whatever it was, somehow in contagion range of that Hellblaster unit, slam that Boil Blight on, launch all the mortars at it, and drop that unit down. Because even if you kill at least, 6 guys, the output of that unit is dramatically reduced. So the second you can kill the fire support, take it, but be careful of Overwatch, because again, especially if it's got 4 rolls to hit, there's potential that you could lose some trying to get in contagion range. So you don't want that to happen, because again, sustained is a hell of a bitch on Overwatch, that's for sure. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll hopefully get some more perfect plays up. Hopefully it's give you some tips and tricks on how to approach this matchup, certain things you can do, and more importantly, it sort of informs you on the Dark Angels sort of like current meta, what it does, what it wants to do, and how hopefully you can play around it. Let me know some feedback in the comments, guys. And if you want to support the channel, these are our sponsors. Saltire Games sells gaming aids that are discussing resilient themed. Links in the Etsy description below. Promo code NERGLE, 10% off. Check out Vanguard Tactics. I'm one of their coaches for Death Guard. They also do a lot of videos of bat reps and great coaching courses, so go check them out. If you fancy picking yourself up some models in the UK, check out Element Games. We have an affiliate link in the description below. Use that, you get some crystals, we get some crystals, everyone wins. And of course, thank you so much to our supporting YouTube members for showing endless support. If you want to become a member, do feel free to click the join button. I think it's $3 a month. It's like a coffee, if that. You get access to our Discord, you get access to Plague Surgery, giveaways, all that kind of good stuff, and it's nice to always chat in there. And yeah, of course, once again, thank you to the Dark Angels community for giving me the pictures for this presentation. Massively appreciate it. And the Death Guard pictures, which were provided by our own members of our community. So, sorry it's been a long one, guys. They tend to be these ones, but hopefully I've taught you something. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. And I will catch you all on the next episode. Stay right, everyone, and let me know what army you want to see me do next. But we're going to do Codex factions, because I've bit the bullet 3 times already on Perfect Plague for doing an army and then a Codex comes out. So only armies that have Codexes currently, please. But yeah, take care, stay rotten, see you all on the next one.